Alright, welcome to another tutorial. I just want to look at the Space Marine Librarian. So this is the single sprue plastic librarian. Here we are spinning around. That's the finished one. Here's all the paints that I used, and we'll just walk through things here in 4x speed, showing parts of the painting process. So starting out with Caledor Sky for all of the blue armor. You'll notice that this is a different blue than I'm using for my Ultramarines. So the idea is that I want this blue to be slightly different. And really this could be a librarian from any chapter. The only difference is just the one shoulder pad, really. Okay, so using Nightshade now to paint on the shadows and all of the crevices in the armor, so all the joints where things come together, and trying to avoid any of the big flat surfaces so I don't have to totally repaint them. Zandri Dust, that's what I'm using for the main part of the talberd, a cloak type thing. So the outside of it's going to be kind of a medium or a beige sort of color. Some gold bits, Balthasar Gold, so the eagle on the front there. I'm going to do the whole staff in gold, as you'll see later, and lots of other details. So I know some of these guys tend to have like yellow details on them. I chose to do any of those things gold just to keep it simple. So I've got basically blue for everything, gold details, a little bit of silver details, and the main talberd is the off-white and some red here and there. So just trying to keep things relatively simple. These tubes on the chest there, doing those in silver. Little bits of the staff, silver, just to contrast the gold. And then some stuff on the backpack, which I'll glue on later. And as obviously the head will go on later too. So I'm using the Khorne Red mix of colors for the inside of the talberd. And the idea is there it's just more of a muted red rather than a bright red that you get from the Mephiston Red and the related highlights. Okay, so Mechanicus standard gray for some highlights on the head there. Actually, it was the beard. And not much gray on this guy at all, actually. Okay, so doing the washes on the cloak, Seraphim Sepia, and just doing that nice liberally over everything so it pools nicely. Carroburg Crimson over the red bits, which isn't too much of that. And yeah, I like to do all my washes at the same time. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll notice that I tend to do the base coats all together and then the washes all at once. Agrax Earthshade for the gold, and sometimes I would use the Agrax Earthshade for the Zandri Dust, but I find it's a bit harsh. It makes the highlighting a bit more difficult because you're going too much of a contrast there. And then I'm going to do Nuln Oil over all of these silver bits. And any gray if there was any. I didn't do any on the beard, just because I felt that would be too harsh, and I want it to be more of a gray, whitish gray beard than a black and white beard. Okay, so now I'm going back with the Caledor Sky and sort of repainting the flat surfaces on the armor just to cover up that wash and any unevenness. Depending on how you like your armor, if you like it a bit more weathered looking, you can skip this step. This has helped make it look a lot more new looking and smooth out the blues. Ironbreaker highlight on the silver stuff, so I got the lock on that book there, and on the grenades he's got on his belt, stuff like that. And this sort of highlight, I'm trying to do kind of a line highlight. I like how that looks on the silver. The Zandri Dust, I'm trying to blend that in with the wash I had on previously. I find that the wash is, Zandri Dust and then going to the next highlight, Ushabti Bone, it's just too much of a jump. So if you do the wash in between, so you kind of have to go back with the Zandri Dust. Using the Flesh shade, so I'm doing the papers on a different sort of a white base, so it's more of a cool tones, and that's just to help them contrast the rest. And you can see I've got the backpack glued on now. I waited to do some of the layers before I did that so that I could paint things that were difficult to reach. Okay, so Gehenna's gold for any of the gold highlights here and there. Okay, Geclis Blue, whoops, I spelled that wrong in the subtitle there, sorry about that. Geclis Blue for the edge highlighting on the armor. And I tend not to do this too harsh in terms of line highlighting, try to blend it in a bit. But I guess it depends on your preference and how much patience you have. I find doing the full-on line highlighting just takes way too long, and haven't had much success with it. Runefang Steel, highlighting up all the silver bits, so just touching here and there just to get the nice silver. Auric Armour Gold on the edges of the gold stuff, making sure that I highlight that up. Here, there, and everywhere. Okay, and the Lothern Blue for just some final edge highlighting on the blue there. And again, I focus this sort of stuff on things that you would actually see from a bit of a distance. So just the major edge highlighting, a little bit of stuff on some of the shoulder pads, kind of the halo effect on it, and that sort of thing. But nothing too crazy. Okay, Wazdakka Red for the red highlights there. And so this is kind of a, a medium, well, it's getting towards, I guess it's the Squig Orange is a bit more of an orangey color, and just trying to blend this in a bit with the previous red layers, so the Khorne and the Carroburg. Okay, Pallid Wych Flesh for the edge highlighting on the scrolls, and again, this is just to make it a bit more of a contrasting white to the Talbard. Sometimes I do the scrolls and stuff like that in a Zandri Dust sort of color scheme, but because the Talbard is such a focal point in this model, I'm doing this a bit more of a cool color. Okay, Ushabti Bone for the highlights on the Talbard there. And like I said, if I didn't go back and do the Zandri Dust, this would be just way too much of a contrast from the wash that had gone on there. And then Screaming Skull, just a little bit of edge highlighting just to bring those up a bit more. Okay, now I'm going to Squig Orange for the final highlighting on the red. And just a little bit of touches here and there and edges just to help bring out the highest bits on things. And by this point we're getting very close to being done with the model. Dark Reaper is going to be going on the head piece here, so I did that kind of a black and just doing some little edge highlights on the black there. And Cadian Fleshtone on the face, so just trying to show you this in general terms. I don't know how focused this is going to be. Kind of hard to hold it in frame there, and it's very small detail, but awesome detail on the face of this guy, and it comes out really nicely with the painting style. Kislev Flesh for a little bit more highlighting here, and again just trying to focus on just the tightest edges that I can that will be noticeable from a distance, and bringing out some of the sternness in the forehead and all that sort of thing. I did do the eyes off camera, so those were done with a bit of a white color. Any white will do for the eyes, and then the Rhinox Hide for the pupils. And at the same time, which I did film, was the Rhinox Hide for the scroll work. So it's just tiny dabbing to make it look like little scribbles on there, and trying to do a little bit of illuminated text sort of hints here and there on it too. So that's sort of the beginning of the paragraph. I have a big square that's meant to be like some sort of a textual whatever. Okay, so highlighting up the base there, Dawnstone. So I'd done the beard with the same colors, the Adaptus Grey, and now I'm just doing Dawnstone on the edges, and Administratum Grey on the beard as well, and I'll do that on the edges of the base. So it's kind of not a pure gray, it's a bit more of a brownish gray, and that just makes it look a bit more organic. Well, organic for the beard, and just a bit more natural looking on the base. And there we are, all done. Spin it around. So there's going to be pictures on my blog. You can check the link in the description below, as well as the painting guide that I put up with my finished models. So that's this thing right here, and I'll show you all of the individual steps, kind of like these that you're seeing. And so those will all be still images on my blog. Please check those out and leave any comments you'd like on this video. If you have any hints for future tutorials, or not hints, but any recommendations or requests, or hey, if you have a different way of painting something, let me know and share that with the community. Hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time. Make sure you like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe.